Good morning, one and all. Welcome to 5 Play Friday Live. Glad to see everybody in the house today. I am super excited to be here. I'm always, it's amazing how super excited I get to do these shows. It's really fun, and the community is fantastic. So I really appreciate everybody joining in. When I woke up this morning, late night, woke up this morning, it's like, oh man, the coffee was definitely needed. Start putting the plays together for the show, and it's like, man, when you're looking at plays, it's like the juices get flowing, the excitement level rises, your brain gets engaged, etc. So we love looking at plays. It's fantastic. Really invigorates us as basketball officials, and that's what this show is all about. And I appreciate everybody joining today. If you are new to the stream, welcome. Appreciate everybody joining. And if you're watching on replay, you can always put comments in the comment section when you're watching on replay, and consider joining us in the mornings for 5 Play Friday Live and Basketball Rules Expert Live when we live stream in the morning. Fantastic. Got a fantastic crew here. Thomas, hello. Alaska is in the house. Thomas has a little play scenario. We can review that in a second. The Zooch jumping in from Missouri. Mike Connors from Tampa. Jason Hayes bringing the Missouri count up. But then Billy Mack says, let's bring the small little corner of Connecticut into the house. Excellent. All right, so Thomas has a quick play scenario. And if you want to drop a play scenario into the chat, we can always look at play scenarios. Let me do this. Common foul followed by a double technical, not in the bonus unless you count the 2 technical fouls. Ruling I made was no free throws and the ball to the throw-in by the team in control, right? So we have a foul ruling, and then we have a dead ball double technical, and we know double. What can I take with me on the court? I know double. We're always going to go point of interruption, right? So it was not a bonus situation. It would be awarded to the team that was offended on the foul at the spot nearest the foul. That was where the throw-in spot would be. That would be our point of interruption. That's where the game would have resumed in the absence of the double technical foul. So we need to be really clear with the table here in a situation like this. We need to report our original foul. We need to report both of the technical fouls, make sure the book is correct on all of that, make sure our crew has communicated about what's going to happen next, how we're going to proceed, and we want to resume the game promptly and efficiently with the confidence that we've adjudicated the play correctly. So Thomas, sounds like you nailed it. Tremendous. POI is the common foul, throw in from the spot nearest the foul. Mike says administer in the order of occurrence. So consider common foul as if the double foul had not occurred, right? So that's sort of a great way to look at it. We had a foul, and then we had this event of this double technical, right? But the point of interruption is, how would we have resumed if we had just had the foul occur? Good morning, Dan Kelly. And Randy Wilson jumping in said, because Thomas had added that after viewing the Masterclass, had him dig in the rules book before that game. It's like, well, it's funny how that works. Sometimes we discuss a scenario in a pregame, and magically it occurs on the court. We could try to do that. We could try to breathe it into life. Let's think about a crazy rules scenario, and maybe we can, talk it into existence. But absolutely, and that's fantastic that you took the impetus from watching the Masterclass, prompted you to evaluate the rules, and then boom, it happens in your game. You own it. You've brought it with you onto the court. We make the proper ruling, and we have the confidence to make the proper ruling, because that's always a consideration, right? If we are out on the court, we put a ruling into the game, and we're just not sure. and maybe our partner or partners are no help or what have you. It's difficult in those situations to let that go and move forward in the game and officiating. That's the skill that we have to develop. So when we have the confidence, right, I know how to adjudicate this play. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it here. Our body language communicates expertise and excellence. All the stakeholders in the game say, okay, he knows what he's doing. That's what we're going to do, right? That guidance. I like to refer to for the kids, we used to have these commercials for Holiday Inn Express. And it would start with somebody in a sort of an emergency situation, stepping forward and like in an operating room and saying, I need a scalpel, and we need to do the air compression and this, that, and the other thing, and providing instruction. The patient is in distress, and then in a moment later, the patient is no longer in distress, and the nurse turns to our protagonist and says, oh, that's fantastic. Great work, doctor. He says, I'm not a doctor. I was just here on a tour. But I did stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night, right? Just projecting that confidence makes everybody in the game feel better. So great work, Thomas, on that play. Billy Mack. Damian Mitchell. Brand new. All right. Fantastic. Welcome, Damian. High school in Southwest Florida this season. Glad to see you have a mask on, Damian. Yeah. All right, Thomas, this was one where the senior ref consulted with me and we talked it out and I cited the rule and he accepted. Yeah, so sometimes we have to display that confidence and convince a partner, sometimes a senior partner, that this is the rule, this is how we should adjudicate this play. And that's also something we have to practice. I'm a junior ref. I'm working with this guy. Oh man, I know he's worked state finals. He's a big wig in the association. All these things. A play occurs in the game. Am I going to defer to that official? Right? Early on, when I'm really new, yeah, I'm going to defer. Right? That's just human nature. But once we know we have to stand up for the game and say, this is how we should adjudicate this play by rule. And so these are things that we have to recognize if we're a young official, if we're a senior official, right? Recognize that this dynamic exists. If that young official comes to a senior official and says, hey, I know you work collegiate games and all, but here's the rule by high school, right? And the way we could do that most effectively, I find, is making statements, declarative statements. Double foul, double technical, point of interruption, right? Using the specific vocabulary to help ground us in what the situation is and help, jog memories and so we can get plays right. But a big part of that is going to be your confidence in making those declarative statements. I hear you, partner, but here's what we have, right? We have a double technical during a dead ball. We're going to go to the point of interruption, which was the throw in after the common foul. Let's make sure to report all of our fouls and let's get this game moving, right? Whoa, right? We got confidence. We got assuredness. Okay, I'll follow you. How would you handle a coach who continues to violate replacing a disqualified player within 15 seconds? Right. So let's say we have our first scenario where the coach is really he's at the boundary of the 15 seconds. Maybe he goes over, etc. Our approach is that we're going to be relaxed in that situation and not play hardball by rule. Give me just a second here. Always got to remember to drop the volume down on the phone, right? So, but then the situation occurs a second time, right? And so, all right, this is how it's going to go. Hardball. right? Coach, we're not having that, right? We could, so after the first event, say, Coach, here's what I need. We need that player within 15 seconds. Could do that or just pass it by. But the second time, right? Hardball maybe, right? That's what NFHS wants. NFHS wants hardball. I wouldn't say that is it's not a delay. Dan, so our situation is the coach is not producing a sub within 15 seconds, right? Am I understanding that correctly? Because that has specific penalties by rule. So we don't have to bring this into the realm of something else. Just penalize the action, right? I mean, it is a direct technical foul of the head coach. So we can't have too many repetitions if we do it by rule. Rob Lewis calling out Billy Mack for the belt-wearing apparel choices. Oh my goodness. Danny has a fight break out in his first. All right. Okay. Interesting scenario. So first game in months, fight break out, rebounding action, tangled up. One girl pushes, other girl throws punches, ended up ejecting both, right? So it brings up an interesting scenario, one that we're not going to get too far into in depth here. We'll get the show going. We do have a couple of longer plays here, so yeah, but let's remember that the action that sparks the fighting action is to be considered the equivalent to the fighting action, right? Player gets up in another player's face, makes an unsporting comment. The player responds by taking a swing, right? Both players would be ejected by rule because the instigator's actions led to the fighting action. So, and there we have it. We're missing out on the belt action. All right. Rob, it is only YouTube Live. It was a little joke. Oh, awesome. Les is in that. Well, since Les has finally arrived, let's get started with the show. Let's start, of course, with our rundown. Oh, I don't even know where I am. All right. If you're new to the show, check it out. Here's what our series of action is. Every Wednesday, we broadcast live 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. Basketball Rules Expert Live. We talk about play scenarios, National Federation of High School Basketball Rules, break down the adjudication of plays and our understanding of the rules book. And then on Friday, we get to have fun. We look at plays. Again, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. We analyze game video, looking for the correct adjudication of the play, but also the demeanor of the officials, the positioning of the officials. Did the correct official make the call? What did the crew do well? What did the crew do poorly or be an area for improvement? And that's what we'll get into today when we look at technical foul administration. And then every other Monday, we have a Masterclass that initiates a week of a focus for a better official live streams. This week we are working on technical fouls, but every other Monday we have a Masterclass where we focus on a specific topic and initiate a week of activity. If you are new to the chat, new to the live stream, jump in the chat, put new, let us know where you officiate from in the great state or the great United States or beyond, We've had Austria. We've had the Philippines. And if you have a comment, of course, put your voice in the game. Jump in the chat. Let's talk about the play scenarios. We've got a fantastic conversation going on our live streams. A fantastic group of officials, very knowledgeable, and newer officials as well. If you're newer, don't be afraid to ask that question. You know that one, right? That's how we get better as basketball officials. Tremendous. I think that may be funny. All right. Cool. Okay. I'm going here. Technical fouls, they happen in the game. We need to have an understanding of the rules so we can adjudicate plays properly. That's critical to our success. We also have to recognize what technical fouls do to the game, how they impact the game. They can lead to emotional responses by the officials, confusion of the game participants, etc. We need to nail down our administration of how we're going to handle the adjudication of the penalties for technical fouls so that we can get our game back on track. And that's what we're doing today. We're looking at technical foul play scenarios and video. Let's go! Greetings, welcome back to 5 Play Friday, the show where we look at plays, analyze game video, and get better as basketball officials. Greetings again, everybody. My name is Greg Austin with abetterofficial.com. We craft video to help basketball officials get better and take control of their officiating career. If you are new to the show, consider subscribing, like the video. Right? Helps us get it in front of more officials. Consider subscribing and also hit the notification bell so that you are the first to know when we go live. Let me thank our fantastic show supporters, without whom the show would not be possible. We got Jeet Gulati, Jose Lansang Jr., Brian Maki, Tyler Matlock, and Thomas Hennian. Much appreciated and much love. You want to support the show? You can always buy us a coffee. There'll be a link in the show notes below. Fantastic. All right. We are ready to rock and roll. So when it comes to videos of technical foul scenarios, sometimes the videos have to be a little bit longer because we're looking at the way that the crew handled the play. You're right, so we're going to look at the aftermath. Sometimes that can take time as well. So today our play scenarios will be a little bit longer potentially. All right, let's just go here. Okay. All right. So today we are looking at technical foul plays, right? We've brought forward some plays that are a little more unusual, right? Not the simple, player says, ref, waves off the official, player technical, right? Really straightforward, or a demonstrative coach, etc. We'll look for some unique plays, right, that we have available to us. So let's look at our very first play. All right. So we have a technical foul, a team technical for having more than 5 players participating. Let's look at our scenario here. Right? This is the start of a period. There's confusion by the team. Ultimately, they end up with 6 players on the court to start the second period, right? Simple business-like administration. Sometimes, right, we see our visitors' bench here saying 6, 6, 6. Obviously, the officials putting the ball into play did not recognize the scenario. Right? That's obvious and straightforward. And this happens. It happens at all levels. We try to build in safeguards. We count players. We make sure that players coming in, coming off, etc. But in the end, these kind of plays happen in our game. Right? This is businesslike and straightforward. There's no drama. White knows they had 6. Visitors know they have 6. The officials recognize they have 6. Simple, straightforward. We move forward. Great demeanor. Calling official says, okay, we know what we're going to do, right? This makes everybody feel better. A simple and straightforward play. Right, so our first play scenario is simply having more than 5 players participating, right? We could say 6 because it's always going to be 6, but the rule says having more than 5 participating while the ball is live, right? Simple and straightforward. Great demeanor by the officials. This is what we want in technical foul scenarios. We want crisp administration of things and get the game back going again. So great job on our crew here, at least after the situation was recognized. Yeah, I gotta go there. Oh, did I have a mistake on it? I apologize for that. Tennessee. Oh, Rob Lewis, do you know Mike Goodwin? He's our Alaska ambassador. Yes, Philharmonic. All right. Who's responsible to count the players? Everybody's responsible to count the players, right? But sometimes if we have maybe there's a distraction that occurs in the game, we don't know in this situation what happened prior to this, but we would expect our crew is aware, right? All it takes is a momentary lapse, and obviously the teams have to get into this situation, right, where there's a moment of confusion with the team and a lapse in attention by the officials, and then boom, we have 6 players on the court. And it happens at all levels of play. NBA has 6 player on the court scenarios, right? Highest trained officials in the world, right? So it happens. We obviously want to have systems in place to prevent it, but we need to know how to adjudicate when the plays occur. It is avoidable, obviously, right? And we want to have, again, those systems in place. But in the end, right, despite our best efforts, we had a momentary lapse, etc. The responsibility lies with the team. It lies with the team. We try to keep the team from harming themselves in these situations by being proactive. But in the end, it is the team's responsibility. Okay. So Randy says don't mess up the possession arrow, right? So the ball was inbounded, and when is a technical foul for more than 5 participating? What is our window, right? If discovered while violating, correct? So the ball is put in play. The ball is made live. The ball is put in play. The clock starts properly, even though in this instance, if we watch the replay, it starts a little bit late. But the clock properly started the throw-in was completed, so we would switch the arrow upon the completion of this alternating possession throw-in. And Montana. Yeah, sometimes the player comes in stealthy. We can't see the front court here, but maybe a confused player just enters the court thinking they're supposed to be on the court, etc. And we'll have a substitute technical a little bit later. All right, so our first play scenario, we are looking at more than 5 participating. Crew got it right, great demeanor. We want to prevent, but in the end, that happens in our game. All right, let's take a look at our next play scenario. All right, so we have a situation where a defender violates the boundary plane and contacts the basketball while it is being held by the thrower. This is a player technical foul by rule, and along with it would come a delay of game warning for violating the plane if a delay of game warning had not already been issued to that team in the game. Right? Let's look at the demeanor here, right? Ruling. About to go to the table. What's our good habit? Anytime we have a technical foul situation, go to a partner. What do we have? Player technical, 2 free throws for white, division line throw in for white, right? Slows us down. Make sure we have our ducks in a row. Go to the table, report. In this instance, official fails to report the delay of game warning that should have gone along with this. But it's a situation, not a common situation, but sometimes players are just like, I see the ball, right? I see the ball, it's right there, and they reach out. You know, there's always a knucklehead factor that can happen with excitable high school players, right? So it can happen in our game. We see it happen. We take a moment to process. We adjudicate the play properly, and we get our game back going again, right? So this is a really straightforward and simple play, not one that we see all the time, but one that we have to be aware of the proper administration of the penalty. Cool. That sounds loud. Danny asks, if this is a delay of game scenario where he just reaches across, right? So we're going to put a delay of game warning into the game for a player violating, a defender violating the throw-in plane during a throw-in. How are we going to administrate it? Here's my advice, Danny, it's kabuki theater time, right? It's a theatrical production. Big voice, everybody knows, right? Delay of game warning. Okay, we're going to step out. We need to communicate with the table. We need to communicate with the coach. What's our obligation? Our obligation is to inform the scorer that a delay of game warning has occurred and inform the head coach, right? So that's a big part of the production, right? Big voice, step out onto the court wherever you need to be so that your partner knows, the coach knows, the players know, the fans know, and most importantly, Grandma. Up in the 14th row, she can't hear very well, and she cannot see very well, but she knows, oh, they put a delay of game warning in the game, right? Because we've eliminated all confusion. So that would be my approach. And again, can we practice that? Yeah, Yeah, we can. You can. Your family's thinking, what the heck's going on? Randy says, always go to the reporting area. If you watch me work, you know that I don't don't always. The key thing in this situation is we have communication to do. Communication has to occur in this situation. Owned is up. What is happening? We're trying to figure it out. You help us sort it out. Billy wants us in the reporting area for a delay of game warning. Grandma's got the Fox 40. A player shall not reach through the throw-in boundary plane and touch or dislodge the ball, as in 9-2. Rob, no, we would not switch. We would not switch. Basically, we're in an information situation. But this, of course, is the key. So Les says go to the table. The key is that we have communication, we have eye contact with our scorer, and that they understand what we need. Like, let's say we've had a game where the scorekeeper is, maybe they're not A+. They've had some issues. Or you have a situation where you always have to be aware of your scorekeeper, right? Is this person like switched on? Here's the cue, right? You go to this. You go to the table to start the game, and you're going to have a pregame discussion with your table personnel, and you have the scorer, and they open up a little pencil holder, and they spill out like 6, 10, 12 colored pencils. We got a pro. We got a pro tonight. But sometimes we have a scorer who maybe has been thrust into the job. They're not expert at it, what have you. Right? Be aware of that. Maybe they don't hear so well, and we have to have a big voice. Maybe they, get distracted and they're looking down constantly. The key thing with table personnel is clear communication and a verification of that communication. If we have scorers who are not giving us eye contact and they're just writing down stuff in the book, this opens the door to possible errors, right? So we don't want that. We need to, ensure that we have that communication going. So we have to do what's appropriate for our scorekeeper in this situation, but also recognize that we're communicating to the scorekeeper, we're communicating to the offending coach, we are communicating to the other coach, we're communicating to our partner, and we're communicating to all the stakeholders in the game what we have so that there's no confusion. If our partner, is unaware, right, then they could later in the game have a delay of game scenario, or we could as a crew have a delay of game scenario where we should administer a technical foul, but instead we let it pass because we sort of forgot about this one, right? So we want to timestamp it into the game so that nobody's confused. All right, we're here to walk you off any ledges. Jason had a delay of game in a JV girls game last season on a poorly lined court. Right, so we've got a situation where the court is poorly marked and a player not being aware of where the line is, crosses the line. You got to use your judgment, Jason, and I know you will. I know you will in this scenario, right? This could be a common sense scenario. The players are put at a disadvantage by the fact that the court has some issues with the markings, right? Sometimes this is something that we want to point out before the game with captains and coaches potentially and say, look, this is our situation. We're going to do the best we can, but talk to your team. These are the boundary lines, etc. Right? We could be proactive in that fashion. Mike wants us to switch in this situation. How do we end up? Trying to communicate. Oh, are the NFHS proper signals police coming after this calling official? Oh my goodness. We do switch, and right. So the other thing is, do we need to move? Do we need to move immediately opposite the table in two-person mechanics, or stake tableside rather? But move opposite the table. So we're going to stake tableside for the free throw, and then move opposite for the administration of the resulting throw in at the division line opposite the table. Again, we want to move smoothly and with proper mechanics. All right. That's play number 2. All right. A couple of quick and easy plays. Let's look now at play number 3. All right. So let's break down our play here. We have a little bit of... Let's go back. Let's go back and break down our play scenario here. So first of all, this court is extremely small, right? There is no room for the coach to be on the sideline virtually, and the stands go to the edge of the court. So our official is working on the court here, always a risk that we're going to get in the way when we're working as trail in three-person mechanics. The official makes a ruling on the play. We get some clarification. Yes, we are going. It is white ball. I don't know what that's all about, but we're ready to go with the game. Maybe the lead official here saw white contact the ball at some point and came with information, but we're ready to go. We've got a coach though who's on the court, making gesticulations. Okay, should we put the ball in play here with this coach on the court? Right. If we're gonna escalate and say, how are we gonna handle this situation? This court is a court where it is difficult for coaches to stay off of the court. If they walk in front of any of their bench personnel, they will be on the court, right? It's just a fact of life. So we're going to have potentially some flexibility here, but in this instance, if the trail official just says to the coach, "Coach, I need you off the court here," right? Maybe we prevent this situation. But we're inbounding the ball. Obviously, the coach continues, and our center official assesses a technical foul on the head coach. And then the official chooses to say, I'm going to go opposite. I do not want to interact with that coach, right? Goes to a partner, says, partner, here's what we have, etc. Everybody knows what we have. In this instance, it's not a point of confusion, but makes the choice to go opposite, and that is always an option at National Federation of High School level. The calling official on a technical foul, if it's an emotional situation, right, feels that the game would be best served if they go opposite, that's always an option on this play. Okay, so the non-calling official in this instance says, okay, what do we need to maybe potentially verify with the table? A lot of times tables, maybe a technical foul occurs and they don't add it to the team foul because it doesn't go to a player, right? So let's see in this instance, right, our team technical fouls on the scoreboard are 4 and 5. The technical foul is assessed and the scoreboard doesn't change, right? So something we want to make sure is that our scorer has that information, of course, that the information gets up onto the scoreboard being a reflection of the scorebook. But that's what we have on this play. I think, Danny, I think the center is asking maybe he's saying, Coach, you're going to have to back up, but he continues to be on the court. Do we need to give a warning in this instance where a coach is on the court during live ball play? And when we say on the court, what are we talking about? We're not talking about having a toe on the court or, they are obviously on the court in this instance. Yeah, they do have the solid outline, but there's nothing worse than poorly framed numbers. Yeah, I think if we go back, we run the tape, and you are the trail on this play. That's where I go. We analyze our game video and say, this is where I went wrong. I went wrong, and I could have prevented potentially this situation occurring. And if we look at our score, it's a 4-point game in the fourth period, right? This isn't a situation where it doesn't matter. We want to make the game better, etc. Of course, in the end, coaches are always responsible for their own behavior, but we had an opportunity to potentially tamp down a situation, provide some information about a call, etc. I think that's what happens on this play, is that there's a perception that that information was provided and not received, etc. Jason Hayes says, Coach, being 5 feet on the court, being demonstrative is my line, right? They are definitely, yes. Yes, they are. Yeah, Eric says give the coach a little break, right? So that's our situation here. We've got a small court, etc. But within those parameters, right, this game is in the fourth period, right? So we've had the game going on. And this is not the first time this coach has been on this court, etc. Right? These are all factors that are going to influence our decision. But even if the movement that we ask from the coach is, Coach, I need you off the court, right? If we make that simple request and they don't comply, then we have something that it's easier to move forward and say, we can always go, Coach, I understand you don't have a lot of room, but I need you off the court. And they back up and they take a step back, and now they're in front of their players, but they're still on the court. That's going to be a situation that exists in a game like this. But this is where we are, right? It's a small court. We are providing leeway for the coaches, but in the end, the combination of I'm on the court, I'm clearly on the court, and I'm demonstrably waving properly assessed a technical foul in this situation. It's going on in the chat. We got a state final official, Rob Lewis. Excellent. Okay, we're catching up. Yeah. Chris says, even if the information that we provide is not like, okay, I'm not going to go across the court. Say, coach, I'll explain it more when we get back, but we are going to keep the game moving here, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I don't think so. I do remember something from this game. Yeah, he's too far on the court. Mike says, check your language, Greg, right? I need you to. Please is always, coach, please back up off the court, etc. Al Kennedy, the alarm went off. All righty. Okay, let's move on to our next play. All right, held ball situation. We're going to have a resulting throw-in, alternating possession arrow throw-in. I think in this instance, whoa. Preview of coming attractions. I think in this instance, there was the coach made a request. Are we sure the arrow is correct, etc.? One of the officials goes, right? We're about to administer play. Substitute runs onto the court. The key thing here is to analyze, was the ball live when the player ran on, right? That's a key component here. The ball is live. The official is counting. Player runs on the court. We don't have a lot of leeway here once this occurs, right? Before the ball becomes live, player starts to go. Maybe we can catch them. Maybe we can stop them, etc. Early in the game, first period, right? Do a little preventative officiating. But in this instance, we go with a substitute technical foul. So the center official sees the player run onto the court. Trail doesn't have a view of it, obviously, when the player runs past. But center official sees. Brief conference, but we know what we're going to have. But basically a brief conference to say, hey, did you beckon that player onto the court? Right? If the official beckoned the player onto the court, then we don't want our error to put a technical foul, a substitute technical foul on the player. Right? As always, when officials confer, open to players. This is great. You can make a judgment. Maybe it's not a great idea to put your hand on the back of a female official or a smaller official, right? Just create a dynamic. That's the kind of thing we want to be aware of as officials. But in the end, a substitute technical foul is the ruling on this play. We don't get to see them very often, so it's good to have this one on video. Right, so we're checking the arrow in this situation. Everybody's ready. Ball's made live. Player runs on the court. Again, players can be goofballs, right? They can make mistakes. They're excited. This may be the first time this player's entering the game, etc. Right? So we just have to be aware of it and properly adjudicate the plays. We would resume with 2 free throws for white and the ball for a division line throw-in opposite the table. And of course, the free throws may be attempted by any player or eligible substitute. So a simple, straightforward play. The variables here are the ball becoming live, the fact that the player was not beckoned, the fact that we had no opportunity to really correct or prevent the situation at that point, and substitute technical foul is the ruling. Sylvia, the SMB is in the house. Our game is always better when the SMB is in the house. Yeah, no, and there was a lot of familiarity with the officials, and I think you'll notice it's a habitual movement on my part with any official, but what you always want to be aware of is the perceptions of everybody, all the stakeholders in the game, etc. Right? Not just the official that you may put a hand on. I think in a previous play there may have been a hand in the back of the official as well, but you got to recognize dynamics. And when you're analyzing your game video, you want to look at all the things, right? You want to look at all the things. So, it's not like touching a player, right? This is going to, and sometimes we will put a hand, it's almost like a spacing element where I'm going to create contact, and that allows us to have the proper space to communicate, right? But when we analyze our game video, we're analyzing all the things. We're analyzing all of the things, right? So we can pick nits about how we stand, our proximity, the dynamic it creates with partners who are really much shorter than us or much taller than us or male, female, etc., or experienced and rookie, right? All of these elements, we want to elevate our crew at all times. We don't want to do anything that impacts any of the crew members negatively. Okay, Al Kennedy, after a long night of football, joins the chat and is getting oriented. It's just like after the ball goes up and we're going down the court for the first time. It's like, which way are we going? Who has the ball going this way? We have to get our bearings. Yeah. Yeah, it not only it sets the tone for the game, Sylvia, but it's just like, do we have an option here? This is a section final playoff game, right? This is not a preseason game where we can, maybe skirt around the rules a little bit. The ball had been made live, and it's really straightforward by rule, and we can't go wrong if we are going by rule. Randy's letting go in the third grade championship. I don't think so, Zooch. I think it was a late arrival, and a lot of times you get that with the player with the late arrival, right? Coach says, 12, you're in the game, or 12, go get 23. The player runs to the table. They may tap the table, but their momentum never stops. And they're just like, I think I'm supposed to go on the court. I'm excited to be on the court. Like we talked about in the Rules Expert show, is sometimes the players still have their shooting shirt on. They are excited, right? We recognize these elements of the game, and it's one of the things that makes the game of high school game so fantastic. Billy Mack, bringing the Connecticut vibe. Okay, that's fair enough. All right. Yeah, that wasn't a dynamic here on the play, but but it's just something to be aware of as we work our ball games. And especially if you are senior, junior, experienced, rookie, etc. If we act in a benevolent fashion towards our partner in that instance, we are reducing their credibility in the eyes of the stakeholders of the game. Well, son, let me tell you how this goes, right? And just have any sort of dynamic, physical dynamic, or etc., right? And we want to elevate the status of our partners, not diminish, right? So those are the things we're looking for when we analyze our game video. Okay. All right. Let's move on now. Play number 5. All right. So we got some great components of this play. This play, on YouTube, the Snohomish video is like one of the most popular, most viewed videos on YouTube when it comes to basketball officiating, etc. But let's look at some components of this play that are really critical to understand, right? Some are unique, some are not. This is a layered play of the highest order. Things have happened on this play, and we are going to have to sort it out as a crew, right? First thing we notice is the defender contacts our new lead, forcing them into the bench area. Our official is out of position, right? It just happens for whatever reason, right? If you are the center on this play, you need to say, okay, I recognize my partner is out of position. I need to be aggressive on this play. That's what we have. Center comes in, boom, right? Foul call, great, movement to the spot of the foul, right? Great dynamic. I'm going to get there. That was a hard foul, right? We want to be on the scene, make the players know we are present. Unfortunately, there's action behind us, right? As a result, and our other official coming in becomes aware of it, maybe a little bit too late, but is aware of that action as well. Our recovered new lead recognizes the action as well. Right? We are directing players in this instance. Red, you are going to your bench, right? This is good. Our first thing to do here is separate the players. We're going to need to analyze what we have on the play and what the resulting action is and how we are going to adjudicate the play. And then at this point, we realize, wait, this coach on the court is an assistant coach. Okay? So we need to be aware. Rules. I don't think it was the case in this when this video when this play occurred. I think this was from 2017. The rules have subsequently been changed so that assistant coaches as well as the head coach can enter the court when a fight may break out. Right? When we have a tension situation on the court, where players are going at it, etc., that meets the criteria of a fight may break out. NFHS says we want contributing adults to be allowed onto the court to help resolve that. You could say, okay, yes, that assistant coach is allowed to be on the court to assist in that. Is that assistant coach allowed to come at the officials in that situation, right? These are questions we need answered. We have that dynamic between the assistant coach. I mean, it seems to be cordial. The official seems to be making things better, but we do have that dynamic. Need to be aware of that. Hard foul. Obvious, intentional, excessive contact. Official comes in, goes to the fouler, right, with great energy. Our crew is out of position. We react a little bit late. We're assessing a technical foul for his 33's actions. And the other official is pointing. I assume he's pointing everybody to your bench, and not that player would have been ejected. Let's pause just a moment and recognize State of Washington uses a shot clock. It's coming to your area soon. All right, so our crew gets together. Great dynamic. Crew gets together. Right, we have a lot to talk about. We have a foul here. We have resulting this, that, and the other thing. We need to do all of the things. Right? Make all of the decisions, all of the rulings here, and then we're going to go present the ruling. Right? So here's what we end up with, though. We end up with one official is communicating with the scorekeeper what we have on the play, right? And we're not reporting it. We're sort of talking in hushed tones, and we're communicating. And one of the things we're communicating is to the announcer, who's going to communicate with the stakeholders in the game what we have, and this is a good thing, etc. But then we have the officials working with the coaches, right, and explaining the ruling, right? I do not like this dynamic, and I recommend that we think this through, how we can do this better, because we want to do all of the things. We could get the coaches together and say, here's what we have, or we could report, then get to the coaches together and explain our situation, if that's the best move forward. But when we separate our crew and we're doing different things at different times here, we're going to create a situation where we haven't answered all the questions, communicated the ruling, presented the ruling, and then we move forward, right? We end up with a situation where we have sort of a secondary conference with the officials, right? We're explaining the ruling. Everything's great. And then our official who, let's see. Then our official who reported the fouls comes in, and then we're sort of going to rehash things as again with the coaches on the play. I think we could really tighten that up, nail down our procedure here about how we're going to properly adjudicate this and how we're going to communicate, how we're going to game manage. So, in the end, no, that's not right. So, in the end, we have a super layered scenario. We want to be at our best here. It's going to be a challenge, right? We're going to have to piece things together. Match up if we have technicals on both of the players who, So if we look at the original part of the play, see, here's where we end up with sort of a secondary explanation with the officials, right? And this is not what we want. Right? So if our initial adjudication on this play, right, so we have the players coming in, red 33 and white 54. 33 pushes past 54, gets to the injured player and taunts that player, right? Then we have shoving. Do we have anything on 54? I don't see it. Right, so we have the initial foul, which I think the announcers report as a technical foul, but of course live ball contact is going to be an excessive foul, an intentional foul by rule. Let's also note our small little cheerleader here. One of the exciting parts of the game of high school basketball. Right. But in the end, we're going to have a layered scenario and something we're going to really have to work through, and we want to do a good job of having all of the answers when we get together as a crew. We're going to do this, we have this, this, and this. We're going to do this, this, and this. Let's go report. We have this, 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 this. Coaches, right? So what we have on this play is this, we have this, and we have this. What we're going to do is I need a shooter to do this, I need a shooter to do that, etc., and then we're going to resume with a division line throw-in. Coach, I appreciate that. This is not a time for discussion. This is the ruling on the play. We are moving forward, right? Your assistant coach is ejected or what have you, whatever the ruling is. We need that member of your coaching staff to leave the visual confines, and I appreciate your help with that, etc. But here's the ruling. We are moving forward in this fashion. Let's go, right? We want to be really good at that. Woo! Crazy play. So Mike has a double technical, right? So we have red 33 pushing past white 54 in an effort to get to the other player, and then goes and taunts the other player. 54 just kind of steps between them, right? I don't see any hostile action by him. I could be convinced otherwise. Good luck with that, Les. Yeah, that's the key. Is let's right. We have. I like to say we have a fire on the court. Let's first put out the fire and get the players away from each other. We have hostility going between the players. That's our first order of business. Get them separated so that we can then work internally as a crew. Yeah, we are so out of position on this play because of the cross check by the defender on our lead on this play. We're just struggling. It really becomes the Wild West, and our ability to be in a great position as a crew is really hampered. And then the fact that the foul occurs and then action extends off the court. A lot of things here are conspiring against the crew. I think that may have fallen on the new lead who got taken out of the play once things start to develop. Pin down the ruling, report, and then explain to the coaches. Oh, so Mike says it should really only require one official on the crew to explain the ruling to the coaches. I would disagree. I would like two officials there so that we have witnesses, as it were, right? And create a great dynamic as a crew. You may have a calling official and a crew chief. You may have just two officials. But I like the idea of having that second official there. But well, that's just the key, Jason, is we have determined what is the ruling on this play. The sequence of events, what's going to happen, are we changing the arrow? Are we reporting all the fouls? Do we have to address team technical foul, team foul situation in this instance, right? How we're going to do, we're going to shoot the free throws for this, then we're going to shoot free throws here, then we're going to come back down here, or vice versa. And in the end, we're going to always have a division line throw-in opposite the table if technical fouls are involved in a sequential fashion, right? But we have to nail that all down. Report what's going to happen. If we have a situation where we communicate with a PA announcer, That's great as well. And then we're going to communicate with the coaches. What are we communicating? We are communicating the ruling and what's going to happen next, right? That's our focus. The ruling is this. I appreciate your opinion, coach, but we're not debating that. We're not debating whether you felt their player pushed your player. We're not debating that. Here is the ruling. Technical foul, ejection by the assistant coach of the assistant coach, etc. This is the ruling. We're not up for debate at this point, right? So it's really critical to have that going in and have the confidence to do that. Now, is that something we can practice as officials? Is that something we can practice as officials, right? We can have a mock Coach A, Coach B. Coach B is really kind of hostile. Coach A is really serene. I'm going to present a ruling of technical foul, etc. We can practice that, right? And we could do it in a way that we show strength and confidence, and that's what we want. As basketball officials, I'll tell you that. Yeah, Al says always bring two. And Billy said, right, so this is something we could discuss. Pre-game, this is pretty specific. You know, if we have a pre-game sheet, this is going to be down towards the bottom. Hey, if we have to explain a ruling. But we can also do it on the spot. Determine that, but we always have to recognize when we have different approaches to the game. Right, okay. So, a layered play with lots going on. Officials were put initially in a rough position due to circumstances, and then events transpire, etc. All we're going to do is do the best we can, work with that. What we want to do when we analyze game video is look at plays, see what we could do better, what we need to be thinking about, etc., so that we can essentially improve ourselves without being on the court, but by simply viewing play scenarios. And that's the great value of looking at plays. All right, today we have a bonus play, and this is a longer video, but let's take a look at our bonus play. All right, since this is a longer play, let's sort of go along with the play rather than allow the whole play to occur. So first thing to recognize, what do we have here? We got a dynamic high school environment. We've got student sections from both schools, big attendance, exciting game, tying three-pointer in the waning seconds, right? Great things going on in this game. So we have a timeout with 7.8 seconds remaining. Note that this clock on the screen is an inset, meaning that it is they're taking a camera view of the actual clock on the wall. On the replay, we got a sort of a scurry across by the lead official when a shot's going up. Not great, not ideal, but it is what it is in this situation. Let's bump forward. All right, so our crew has obviously had a chance to discuss the situation where right? What are the things we're discussing here? We have a tie game with 7.8. We want to be aware of team fouls. We want to be aware of timeouts available. We want to be aware of the possession arrow. We want to be aware of all the things, right? All of the details. We want to have a game plan, how we're going to officiate this final scenario, what our approach is going to be, what what we're thinking about on plays like this. And let's move forward. Okay, so we have an out of bounds call and the clock continues to run. Remember that our inset clock is not an approximation, but is a picture of the actual clock on the wall. So the clock definitely ran after the ball was out of bounds. That's one of the things we're going to talk about, is we need to have an accurate clock understanding. If we have definitive knowledge, we don't want to make something up. Well, I know some time remained, so we want to have definitive knowledge, right? As our calling official, we want to have a really accurate timing on our out of bounds ruling. And as off-ball officials, we want to have an opinion about the clock in this situation. In the end, our crew determines that climb time did remain, and they put 0.3 on the clock. I don't know if that was somebody's perception or not. If we go back, we could see that it was more like 1 second or 0.8 seconds, somewhere in that range. But what do we know? Now we have a 0.3 scenario. What do we know? Right? That's the thing we're going to talk about, and that's the thing the crew was talking about. It's obvious that we are talking about, right, with 0.3, they cannot catch and shoot by rule. Okay? So our crew is like ready. If once they catch the ball, they cannot score. Let's resume the game. All right. Okay. All right. A lot to unpack here. Let's do this. Put that on mute. Okay. So, right, I see. So we have a situation where a last second shot appears to go in, right? Crime on the clock, timeout. Sorry. Let's look at our administering official here. Boom. Awesome. 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 Right? No confusion. This is a spot throw in, right? We've told the player it's on video. There's no confusion about whether that player can move, and we're going to have a resulting throw-in violation. Perfect. Now our crew knows at point 3, if they catch the ball, time will have had expired. They cannot score. Player makes a miraculous attempt. Ball goes in. Our center official waving it off. But notice the dynamic, just the one motion. Okay? Student section, players, team members on the bench, everybody's excited. We have won the game, right? Student section, here come our knuckleheads. They are going, the players are like, dude, right? It's not over. And we have a throng of fans on the court, right? Let's think about the timing here. Already, everybody on the court is being waved off and is headed now back to the stands. In the end, the officials assess a team technical foul for the fans on the court. Is that the correct ruling in this situation? That is the ruling. When do we assess the penalty? Okay, this is something that has occurred after time has expired in the 4th period during a tie game, right? These are the components that we need to be aware of. The officials assess a team technical foul by rule. Now, where do we find the ability for the officials to make this assessment? Let's take a look at that. So, if we look at Rule 2-8-1, as the host management. So, officials are empowered to assess a technical foul, but we look at the language here, and the key component is delay the orderly progress of the game, right? So after a made basket here, you could logically say, well, wait a minute, time has expired in any event. If the people who have come on the court erroneously either be team members, jumping on the player who released the try from the back court, and they mob them and they're all over the court, etc. Is the team delaying the orderly progress? The period is over in this instance. So that's important to recognize. This wasn't, we weren't going to have a resulting throw-in a moment later, and we had to wait and delay the game. Okay? So even though we have the power to assess technical fouls related to fan behavior, it needs to meet certain criteria, right? And if the officials in this instance just allowed the natural flow of the students back up into the stands, then the game would not have been delayed, as we have a 1-minute intermission here where before the start of overtime. But in the end, the officials assess a team technical foul. Okay? Now, should that team technical foul be a part of the fourth period, or is it part of overtime? We need to know this. This is obviously, if we get to this situation where we're making decisions about when to administer technical fouls in a tie game at the end of the fourth period, it is obviously extremely important that we get things correct, as this is a key moment of a very close game. The correct procedure here would to begin the fourth period with the technical foul free throws. And when we have technical foul free throws, of course, they are always followed by a division line throw-in. So in this instance, where our officials administered 2 free throws for the team technical and then resumed with a jump ball, our crew made a mistake in this situation. It should have been black ball at the division line opposite the table. Black wins the tip, right? No harm, no foul, right? But again, we want to adjudicate these plays properly. So, a crazy scenario, and one that we just have to take the full scope of it, right? And recognize high-profile game. The crew is obviously extremely competent, right? We seem to have a lead official, a crew chief, and the U2 and the U1 really listening to the crew chief in this environment, right? We have to recognize that. If we recognize that we have a experienced veteran official who's the crew chief, younger official, etc., recognize that dynamic, recognize how we're going to approach that dynamic as a crew. And if you're that young official and you have something different, you have got to fight for it. Not saying we had that in this situation, but I can imagine the dynamic that occurs. So, in this instance, right, crew makes the ruling. I would say that's an erroneous ruling. They could justify it potentially, but puts 2 free throws in the game, and we resume with a jump ball, that's a mistake that the crew made as well. But it's a situation where it's great to evaluate this. All right, so we evaluate the dynamic, right? We have a packed gym, huge student section. They may be going back and forth all night with chants and things like this. Maybe we've got a band in one corner. We've got cheerleaders at both ends of the floor. This is a dynamic high school environment, right? A lot of fans, right? This is going to be a game you want to work, right? These games are so fun, but it may be a game that you're not yet working, right? And all of these elements are, potentially putting pressure on the crew in these situations, in these game deciding and moments, right? Now, imagine the same situation occurs in a JV game and there's 14 people in the stands, right? And you're working that game, right? We can take what we learn in those environments, those classroom environments, those lower level environments, right? So we can handle our game situation in those environments so that when we get to the big game, when we get to the environment, etc., we are best able to perform. So in this instance, our crew makes a couple of mistakes, but a super exciting play scenario. Oh boy. I'm going to go back here a little bit. That's the longest play in 5-Play Friday history. Right? So the no shot is easy peasy, right? So let's talk about the dynamic displayed by the center official, right? Great professional wipe of the shot. Perfect. Except, right? In this instance, right? Let's talk about NFHS says we don't want officials to try to draw attention to themselves by the use of unapproved or theatrical signals, etc. In this instance, I would say a more demonstrative effort by our center official, right? We see sometimes a calling official is emphatic with multiple wave-offs of the shot. It can do things, it can help influence the decision by the student section to come on the court or the bench to rush onto the court, etc. If we are trying to tamp that energy down with no shot, right? And maybe really, enhancing our presence in a way that we wouldn't normally, right? And normally we're going to be, emphatic. We want to, make a definitive ruling, and everybody respects that. But we may, embellish more in an effort to say, wait a minute, hold on, everybody, no shot, no, you're not coming on, no, you're not leaving the bench. It's just no shot, right? Yeah, the wave off was straightforward. Wait, what free throw? Yeah, the play really unravels, and our announcers, right? Our announcers on this in this game are pretty sharp, right? They're pretty switched on. That's not always the case. Hey, Nicholas in the house, awesome. Where's Waldo? Yeah, the technical foul was a team technical for the student section on the court. Chip Clark in the house. Florida, all up in here. Did the audio go away? I'm sorry. Yeah, so it's interesting that Chip is on the call here because he relayed to me in a phone conversation a situation where they did assess a technical foul on a student section for delaying the orderly moving forward with the game, right? It's not that it can't be done. The question is, in this situation, did the actions by the crowd delay the game? And delay the game to a fashion that it rises to the technical foul. There was certainly nothing unsporting. There was no taunting of the opponents or slurs or anything like that. They simply thought the game was over, came on the court, and then once they were directed to leave the court, promptly left the court. You could say, Mike, okay, you could do something proactive with both benches. Again, our situation was coming out of a timeout. Potentially, you could go to site. Usually there's somebody in charge that's near a larger student section, an administrator that we could say, hey, make sure that, not to rush the court. I mean, that would be really kind of crazy anticipation. It is possible. Yeah, Gary, I am with you. I do not believe the T was the right call either. You can hear me now. Yeah, I apologize. Absolutely, Rob. reasonably to be expected is the key phrase, and it is tough to control the stadium when they think they just won, and they have every reason to think they just won, right? This isn't a situation where a rogue group of players, or rather of the student body, comes onto the court and does some antics or something like this. This team thinks they won. Everybody can reasonably think they won. The conspiracy theory enters the chat. Oh, Al likes the call. No, it wouldn't be a team technical for delay. This would be a team technical not related to delay, or not related to one of the delay of game warnings, Thomas, not in this instance. I apologize. I must have exited. So Rob offers the counsel to young officials: you want to work a postseason environment, don't do that, right? How we handle the administration of the game is key, and assigners want officials who will handle the game properly and will do the right thing. There are very strict guidelines provided by the rules book, and then there are guidelines provided by assigners about what they're looking for. And I'm with you. Thanks, Les. It is good. It's a great play scenario. I appreciate Mike Capps, an official here in the Bay Area, pointed me towards that video. And it's a great scenario. And it's one that's not going to happen a lot. And it's one that's, not necessarily going to happen at all levels. We're not always going to get such a big student section. And even there's nothing better than the game-winning shot. The student section comes on the court. We've got to make our way through and get to, it's a great way to end a game, right? And it can be an exciting conclusion to a game. And it's, you got to think that it's a hair trigger situation. Everybody's just waiting, excited, we won, right? And they come onto the court. It's a very natural reaction. Mike, I can make that available to you. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will I will make that available. I'll figure out how. Stephen came in late. How was this adjudicated? A team technical for the student section running onto the court was assessed, and then we began the overtime with the administration of the 2 free throws and then a jump ball. So we're a little bit off there. Oh, Chip, I remember every word you possibly ever communicate to me. Always listen to Sylvia. Oh. Yeah, wash your hands, wear your mask, do the right things. Okay, so Danny says, then this is the logical next step, and this is exactly how we want to think through scenarios like this. Okay, this was, time had expired on this play, right? So it's different. But what if time remained? What if in the previous situation where the crew is going to put time back on the clock, right? When these situations, then would this action by the crowd, right, potentially delay the game and the swift administration of the game? Potentially yes. Potentially yes, right? Whether or not a timeout was called could influence that decision. But if the game is ready to go and we have to wait for fans, then we potentially have something different. So that's a great way to think about things, Danny. At some point, a T is reasonable, right? You could say, okay, the spontaneous reaction was permissible, right? Because everyone expected it. But in the situation you described with 5 seconds left, that spontaneous reaction is not, to be anticipated, right? It doesn't make sense that everybody would think the game is over when there's 5 seconds left on the clock. So in that instance, if the student body wanted to take over the floor, and right, so it's a different scenario. Oh, thanks for that explanation. Yeah. I apologize for that, and I'll fix that in post. But obviously the rule was visible, so. Yeah, exactly, Randy. The idea of, oh, I'm going to go to the game administration and say, in case the the ball is legally scored. Could and should, Thomas. Oh my God. A Buddy Hackett reference. Kids, look it up. Joel Easton in the house. Yeah, pretty extreme scenario. Or get it right, right? Or get it right. I mean, 0.3 was not the right number when the official raised their hand. It was at 0.8. We can go back and look that and pick nits, but we want information for both of those outside officials. What did they have to look at on this play in this scenario? Let's look back right here. Right? So what we have is somebody walking right in front of the camera. So the ball bounces inbounds here, and then when it contacts here, right, when it contacts out of bounds, that's when the official rules the out of bounds violation, right? And maybe the whistle blows at about here when the official's putting their hand up, but I'd want that center official to be looking through and have that awareness of the clock. What are they officiating otherwise in this instance? Right? We have rebounding action, ball bounces, and then there's that moment where the ball is suspended in air, right? Both of those outside officials, you have to have a number when the whistle blows. Have to have a number, right? And if that number is 0.8, 0.7, then potentially we have something different in this end of game scenario. And that's not to say the same thing would have happened. The defense may have been very different. The defense may know, hey, we don't have to defend this. There's no way they can score. So I'd say the moral of the story when putting time back is, and I appreciate the sentiment there, but the moral of the story is put the right number up. All right, fantastic. I'll tell you what I'll do when I post the video, Mike. When I post the video up, the edited version, or even this version, I'll put in the comments the URL, or I'll put it in the description, in the URL of the live video, and then I'll put the YouTube URL in the comments of the edited video, and you can pull it from there. Okay, wow. Whew. I'm exhausted. And I've kept everybody way too late. Come on now. We got work to do. Well, thank you for joining us today on 5 Play Friday and our look at technical fouls in National Federation of High School Basketball rules and some of the many things that can come from analyzing our game video. If you appreciate video content like this, now would be a great time to do all the things. Hit like, subscribe, and notify. You hit like, more basketball officials get exposed to the video through YouTube algorithm, and we all get better together. You hit subscribe and notify, and you don't miss out on any of our new content. You're always the first to know when something is new. Let me thank our fantastic show supporters, Jeet Gulati, Jose Lansang Jr., Brian Maki, Tyler Matlock, and Thomas Hennian. Much appreciated and much love. You want to support the show and the channel? You can always buy us a coffee at abetterofficial.com/coffee. You know there's a link above, and you know there's a link in the show notes below. All right, the other 2 videos in the series are available here. Up here, we've got the Masterclass, the basketball rules expert. Check those videos out as well, and we'll see you in the very next one. Take care. Whew. I really am exhausted. Greg's got to go to work. Yeah, Mike, we'll edit it down. It's going to be tough to edit this one down too far, but it's easier and easier now that I've refined the show, and I appreciate everybody up to this point. Some people are new, but we've been in the process of refining the show, getting better at procedural stuff, so there's less delay. So what was the hiccup today is when we went to the rules reference, Greg's voice disappeared. You know, it's a one-man band here, and we're doing the best we can. Chris, it's great to see you today. Fastly approaching. Yeah. What does it say on the mirror? Images are larger than they appear. It is growing larger. Thumbs up before you leave. Best stream yet. Oh, excellent. Bigly. Well, the Shapoopy reference earlier was, of course, by Billy Mack, was a Music Man joke. So, yeah. Gus and Oliver, the snoozers are not in the house today. All right, everybody, I am done here. Go forth and prosper. Continue with your preparation for the upcoming season. I know I am, and I'm excited about it. Appreciate everybody joining today. Put your voice in the chat, and we will see you next week. We've got Basketball Rules Expert on Wednesday, so make it a great day today. We'll see you in the very next one. Take care.